We are live on Facebook for another Tuesday, and this is everyone's favorite place to hang out on a Tuesday. Of course, I'm Mike Scala, joined once again by hip-hop artist Timid / BLM Tokyo Chair, Jay Carter. What's going on, Jay?
What's going on? Another week. How you doing?
Good, good. Got back from Albany once again yesterday. Been very busy with this legend law stuff and everything else, but you know, business is good, so I can't complain.
I hear you. Don't forget to take some time for yourself, though.
Yes, so we will try to do that, but let's continue with the show here because we do have another special guest with us. We have Manny Silva, who is the executive director of the Far Rockaway Arverne nonprofit coalition. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
There it is.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Happy Tuesday. Happy Taco Tuesday.
That's right.
Oh, don't say that. There are no tacos out here.
I'm sure they have to have tacos.
I'm in the country. I'm in the countryside. There's no tacos out here.
Oh, all right. All right.
There's your own taco truck and get rich.
The only thing out here is that they have taco out here, but taco in Japanese is a form of squid. And so, yeah, I'm not eating that. I'm not trying to eat that taco.
That's the fried squid balls?
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, you know, I watch a little anime here.
Culture. That's good.
Yeah, actually, what I'm trying to do with the Rockaway Youth Summit, which I guess we'll get into in a second, is we want to center it and theme it around Japanese culture, and you know, especially in our communities, a lot of our young people are into Japanese culture right now. So our whole theme for this youth summit is going to be themed around Japanese culture.
Wow.
But, you know, when we get into what the coalition is doing, I'll let you know, what is the youth summit, the Rockaway Youth Summit.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. And if you know, anything I can do to help or consult on that, let me know. You know,
definitely. And if you have a connection to Naomi Osaka, please, we're trying to get her there.
Yeah, not quite, but
it's a big ask.
I feel like she represents that Japanese, Black, brown, people of color culture mixed with Queens and Japan.
No, absolutely.
Like, and sports, you know, she's all of that in one.
Absolutely. And you know, we've talked about her, and I've been interviewed out here about her and her impact and being, you know, the cross-cultural impact for Japan as well as in the States, and for, you know, people out here in Japan, because there's a large growing population of, you know, mixed Japanese children growing up in Japan in a society where there's a very specific view of what it is to be Japanese. And so she's a good representation for this new, or not really new, but this growing group of individuals who, you know, have been kind of ignored or mocked, you know, in general.
Well, that might be a good segue, I guess, into the light topic of the week. Speaking of mock, right? Some are saying that this depiction is a bit of a mockery of Michelle Obama. Can you clarify?
Yeah, well, there's a new series that's out on Showtime, and Viola Davis is playing Michelle Obama. And it's been trending on Twitter and social media and in news and stuff for the last couple of days because of the way that she kind of portrays her face in this. Like, she's like pursing her lips, and it looks very much like it's a parody of Michelle Obama in many ways, at least from the screenshots and the screen grabs and the clips that people are posting up. So yeah, if you Google that, you'll see it's popping up, and so people are like, oh my God, like, how could no one tell her? Like, the producers didn't say nothing. No one on set said nothing this whole time. And Viola Davis is she's one of those top tier actresses. It's like, how, you know.
Right. So what do you think that is? Just bad acting, not nailing the part well enough?
I think, you know, part of it, I think, like, I saw some clips. To be fair, I haven't seen the show. I've seen some clips. I saw the trailer, seen her portraying, and she does get some of Michelle Obama's mannerisms. However, I think she went too far on that part, because there is, I guess Michelle does parse her lips a little sometimes, but this was just like almost parody territory, it seems.
Yeah,
And
I
I think
like the character in the pictures that you showed me, but it could have just been
right. And I think
I watched those clips. It wasn't the picture. She did that. She did that, and not in a good way. She really, and I mean, everything. It was disappointing, but
right.
it was. She was trying to represent the first lady in a way that was true to her. The first lady has pursed her lips before.
Right.
Her hair, she straightens her hair and or wears it in a certain way. Now Viola's wig was an extreme version of that, but I feel like Viola Davis is such an actress that she was really trying to embody the first lady and the good and the bad, and well, not the bad, the good and the unique.
Right.
That lip pursing, that is unique to, I don't, other, I got it, but it was definitely to the extreme. She took it to another level.
So do you think that was a good depiction, or you think she went a little too far with it?
I think she went way too far.
Okay.
I think I'm not even gonna try to do it.
No hesitation. And I think that for it to go out like that and still be in the final reel, that's also on the responsibility of the director too, to look at that and be like, hey, wait a minute, that's a little too much, dial that back a little bit, you know what I mean? So, but
that's Viola Davis. Viola Davis has, she's just getting bigger and bigger, and she's
right.
She's just renowned. And it's kind of like when Will Smith smacked Chris Rock, nobody went up there to stop Will Smith. Nobody grabbed him and kicked him out. If I smacked Chris Rock, I would be in jail right now. So when you get to a certain level, I feel like celebrities, they have so much leeway with the people around them that nobody's going to tell them about themselves, including a director that is probably not a huge director. I mean, I don't know, but looking at how that show is, and did you see the Obama that they casted for that? It was, there's a lot of it that's just like really lacking. And you got Viola Davis. You don't want to piss her off.
And doing shows like that though, like even some of the, like I said, I watched some of the clips of the acting, the interaction between it. It doesn't seem to be top tier quality directed wise. You know what I mean? It seems like Lifetime movie type of stuff. So
it's on Showtime, right?
Yeah, it's on Showtime. Like you expect a different level on Showtime versus like Lifetime and Hallmark TV show. Like it seems like one of those types. But I will watch it to give it a chance to see how it goes, because I don't want to just straight out judge it like that. But her depiction, it doesn't look good. It looks bad.
I'm not going to give it a chance. I'm a big fan of Obama. I'm a big fan of the First Lady, and I saw those clips, and I'm not impressed.
Also, those clips were enough to turn you off from it.
Okay. Completely. I'm not even going to waste my time.
Did you see on FX the American Crime Story series on the Clinton impeachment?
Oh, no. That's another one. I was like, nope. After watching the trailer.
Based on what?
It was the Clinton that the Bill Clinton that they had casted. I was like, what the heck is this?
He doesn't look like him at all, but he does the voice well enough, I think.
He does not look like him at all. No, and I mean, that voice, all you got to do is give yourself an Elvis impression, and you got a Bill Clinton voice.
Not the Elvis impression. What?
You want to give it a shot? Let's hear your impression.
I can't do it. I'm not an actor.
All right.
So you're a tough critic. You're like, nope, not even.
To my shows, I take that very seriously. I and when it comes to depicting politicians, I take that seriously too. I'd much rather. You guys ever seen the Wiener documentary?
Yes, in fact, I'm in it.
Oh, all right. What role did you play on that campaign?
So before the scandal broke, I was actually waiting.
There was like 3 of them, but
yeah, well, no, because he was rehabilitating his image. He was actually leading in the polls, right? People were willing to give him a second chance. Of course, he was our congressman for much of the Rockaways, so we had that relationship. I was waiting for I think I already knew I passed the bar, but I was waiting to be sworn in. So I was volunteering doing election law stuff under the attorney that they hired. I thought that was good experience for me getting into election law. But what was funny was they actually asked me one time, because the office was in Manhattan, no one had a car, no one had a driver's license, and the person, I guess, that usually drove him around was like out that day. So they're like, does anyone else have a driver's license? And I said, I do. So they asked me to go to his garage where he kept his SUV and pick him up and drive him to some events. So that was pretty interesting. I think that was more interesting than the election law stuff I did.
That was history. But that documentary in and of itself was a movie. That was so entertaining. It was terrible to watch his life fall apart, but it was very entertaining. And I would much rather watch that than one of these depictions of politicians, like the Trump movie. Did you guys see that? It was like a recent one. It wasn't Trump. It was Comey. That's his name?
Yes, I think I did see
FBI director,
yes.
Former FBI director. No, I haven't seen that at all.
Yeah, it was a Comey movie about Trump and him and their conversation.
The Hillary emails, right? Reopening the investigation, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Or he had at one point he had invited him to Trump had invited him to the man, I forgot which movie it was. Trump had invited him to the office to talk to him about investigating him. And they made a whole movie out of it, and it was ridiculous. It was on Showtime too.
The Comey rule. The Comey rule.
Yep. And Comey, the actor that they got for Comey, he doesn't look anything like Comey. I can't watch it. It is cringy. And
I don't think most people even know what he looks like necessarily, do they?
Right.
Well, I do. Showtime is just letting me down.
Wow.
It's important that they find someone who looks like the person to you. Otherwise, it takes you out of it.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Plus the script, the script got a.
I hear you. All right. So why don't we get into some of the work that you've been doing? I know people are excited about you leading this coalition of nonprofits, and we're talking about a lot of money coming into our area. So I want to hear about that and how organizations can get a hold of this. What is the process like? What does it all look like? I know people are going to be very interested in that.
All right. So I'll get into what is it that I do. So my name is Manny. I am, as you said, the executive director for the Far Rockaway Arverne Nonprofit Coalition. Usually we do not say the whole name. It's an acronym. Frank is the acronym. So if you ever hear anybody talking about Frank, it's not a person. It is a coalition of 21 different organizations in the Rockaways that come together to maximize their impact for the families of Rockaway. And that number is growing. When I started as executive director in November, we were at 17. So now we're at 21. I expect by next month, we'll be at like 25. And it's really important for me to see the organizations come together, collaborate, build with one another. We provide them with technical assistance and a lot of other things. We host monthly meetings for the representatives of each nonprofit to come through. We create networking events for the nonprofit staff, because you can do your job better when you know the people doing their jobs in other nonprofits well. And you'll be able to refer, you'll be able to make calls to people, and you'll have a more holistic view on the community when you've built relationships within the community. We are hosting a retreat this summer for staff of our members. We provide guidance to our members. Our members are also committed to one another and supporting each other's events and programs. We have a youth mentorship program called the Rockaway Youth Leadership Council that we're launching this spring. We provide technical assistance to our members. We provide outreach assistance to our members. We have a sports training program that we are partnering with the Department of Health on for children 7 to 17. And every year for more than a decade, so Frank has been around for quite some time. I'm only the first executive director, but they've been pushing, they've been building since about 2011. And
Let me
every
ask you
year,
real quick, what are the criteria for joining? Can any nonprofit in the Rockaways join?
any nonprofit that meets the criteria. So in order to join, you have to attend multiple meetings, at least 2 meetings of the coalitions. You have to be able to commit one of your people from your organization to attend our meetings. You have to have been active in the Rockaways doing work for the last 6 months, for at least 6 months. And then you have to be in good community standing. And from there, you apply, you send us a letter of intent, and we review that with our steering committee. So instead of a board of directors, we have a committee of people that are representatives from about 11 different organizations that are members, and they act as a board. They handle the governance of the coalition, and you send us a letter of intent, and we'll go through it at the steering committee meeting. And if you've met all the criteria and you're in good standing, it's a whole debate. It's a whole debate.
There's a
You'll get
debate
approved.
as to whether a group is in good standing or not?
Yeah, because not every group. Let's say your organization is being investigated by the FBI and the NYPD, and you meet all the criteria. That might not be great for us to get in business with you during your investigation. That doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong until proven guilty, but the steering committee has that power to approve or deny, or just put organizations on the waiting list, because all of our services cost these organizations nothing. Organizations don't have to pay anything. A lot of other coalitions, they will charge organizations to be a part of their coalition, but we're here to help small organizations and large organizations. So with everything that we're pouring into this, we have a staff of 2 that you get for free, just to make sure that you are supported, and you have a foundation, and you have a community around you that's going to make sure, as an organization, the work that you're doing gets to the people that need it most. But I was just about to get into the Rockaway Youth Summit, which the coalition has been doing for over a decade. And every year, we host an annual event to celebrate, educate, and empower young people in Rockaway. And usually we have about 200 young people. We'll hold it at a school, and it'll be a day full of workshops, a guest speaker, and some activities. But this year, I want to take it to the next level. I want to make all of June Rockaway Youth Month, where there are just tons of events happening, and we are empowering and pouring into our young people. And obviously we're doing that all year round, but this month, June, is the month that we really focus on young people. We celebrate them. We make them feel as special as they are, because that is our future. They are going to be our bosses one day. And I also think there needs to be a little bit more fun involved in our educational workshops. So this year we're going to focus on Japanese culture and the intersection between Japanese culture and New York City culture, and Queens. And we are going to invite everybody in the community to partner with us, all of the nonprofits, whether they're members or not, all the elected officials. We are going to invest in this event and make sure that these young people are coming here. They're going to have fun, but they're going to leave learning something, learning about culture, and learning about a lot of other things. We have all of our nonprofits usually host a different workshop on, or they'll try to condense their programming into like 45 minutes, which is really hard to do. And they'll also leave with a lot of free food and goodies.
Well, you're on the right live stream if you want to talk about Japanese culture. Of course, we have Jay Carter, who was in New York for a while, and now he's in Japan doing work with BLM Tokyo. So hopefully you guys can link up and maybe Jay can be of assistance to you with this.
Yeah, I would. We would love that, because it was just, we were inspired and we ran with it, and now we're going, and this is the first time we're gonna do it like this. Usually the themes are around concepts, like royalty was a theme one year, where we're celebrating young people and reminding young people that you are royalty. And we had like a crown on the t-shirt, everything was themed around that. But this year will be the first time we're like taking something that exists and applying it to what we got going on. And I think a lot of young people in Queens that love Japanese culture kind of get what is the word, overlooked, and or that specific type of that love for Japanese culture does not get celebrated or highlighted the way that we are going to do it. Not in Queens.
Right.
I see it happening. I see festivals in other places, but not.
And of course, you don't have a very large Japanese population in the area, but there is that fascination with the culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Jay, I see you, looks like you're pondering something. I guess brainstorming, would you have any idea, anything come to mind when you think about how would you celebrate Japanese culture?
And let me just mention something.
Yeah.
You got gangsters and you got people that are some of the toughest people going home and watching anime.
Sure.
So, that is something that a lot of people don't think about. Everybody from gangsters to kids that do well in education. Maybe I used the wrong word, but I'm not in politics anymore, so I have to worry. But my point is, you got people from all aspects of life that share this love for Japanese culture.
Absolutely. Anime was a good gateway that really took hold in the States over the past, I'd say the past 20 years, and it's come out to now it's more socially acceptable to be fans of anime and whatnot. I think it's a good idea. There are actually a lot of Japanese students, when they go to New York to study or whatnot, a lot move to Queens, to the northern part of Queens, actually. And so there are some communities out there. So I think it'd be a good thing. There's lots of different things you can do, especially with some of the food. We were talking about takoyaki and things like that. I definitely would love to sit and chat about it. So
I want to shout out some of the viewers: Mike, Sandra, Paul, Tommy, Pat, Inna, James. Thank you guys, and everyone else. I know people are tuning in because we mentioned in the caption that there's money coming to Rockaway, community grants. So I would like you to get into that. How is this coming in? Who's providing it? What will it be used for? And how does it all look?
All right. So let's talk about money. Give me one second. I want to.
People are always interested in money.
Yeah, and this is money that the community fought for. So I want to make sure that I'm doing it justice, providing this presentation, and I want to make sure that people are applying for this. So give me 1 second to pull up the presentation.
Oh, you got a presentation. We can do a share screen too, I think, if you want to do it that way.
Oh, you want to do that? All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's go all in.
Let's go. All right, give me a second so I can
let them know. While you're doing that, what's your favorite anime title?
Favorite anime right now is probably let me see, what's favorite anime. I can't pick a favorite. I can't do that. Okay, but I can tell you what some of my favorites were. Recently, I really like Demon Slayer, and it's just the art is beautiful. Oh my goodness. Like the art is amazing. But it's a very popular anime. There's an anime called Ergo Proxy. A lot of people don't know about. And That was another amazing anime. There was an anime called actually I gotta look this up. Hold on. I gotta look up this presentation. So let me
Yeah, you're supposed to be looking at the presentation while you're answering.
Multitasking.
I'm a very superficial anime guy. Like, I'm about Dragon Ball deep as far as it goes. So all of these other names I don't really know. Question would be,
remember, Timid, that line that K the Don had on one of the tracks where he was like, kill you like Vegeta did to Goku or something like that. Remember
right?
that?
Yeah.
99, 2001 or around there. That one always stuck with me. It's about as deep as my knowledge goes too.
I did a line in one of my songs, in my song "I Love You," where I referenced Shenron, and that's from Dragon Ball. So I think what would be good to maybe note or look into. I don't know if you're aware of Yasuke, who Yasuke is.
No, that they did an anime on Netflix. You seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was more.
Really good.
Yeah, that was more of a very fantasy type of depiction. But Yasuke was a samurai in Japanese history, and it was black. No one really knows which country he came from, but he fought with one of their historical generals, Oda Nobunaga. And so even Japanese people aren't aware that there was a black samurai.
You know what? That is that is a great point. We should celebrate that, like, definitely.
Yeah.
And the anime was really good. But yeah, I did look into him after watching the anime, and I was like, oh, all right, cool.
And you could also bring up about, a lot of the Japanese, like baseball in Japan is a very big industry, just like in the States. And a lot of the foundation, some of the foundation came from the Negro Leagues. Because the Major League Baseball wasn't really that interested in talking out there. The Negro Leagues came out to Japan and helped them set up their, gave them some training and worked with them and had like this good relationship. So
that is really good information, and we're definitely going to use that. We're definitely going to talk. I'm having a meeting in like 2 days. I want to see if you can join, but I'll follow up with you after this.
Most definitely.
All right, you guys want me to jump into this presentation? How much time I got?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's get it.
All right. So this is a little bit about Frank. We already went into that. Frank is a coalition of nonprofits. We got 21 different nonprofits, from small to really large, working together to build one another and strengthen their relationships. And in this presentation, we go over a little bit why that even exists. Why do we need that? The work that Frank does allows nonprofits to work together more seamlessly and provide a wider range of services for the people of the Rockaways. It helps ease tensions that may develop when you have a multitude of CBOs working in the same vicinity and competing for the same pots of funding. Now let's get into what is Edgemere Commons. So the whole funding that Frank is now allocating comes because of a project called the Edgemere Commons project. Edgemere Commons is a development with over 2,000 units of housing, a mix in affordability. You're going to have housing for people that are formerly homeless all the way to people making $100,000 a year. It's a mix, and there's going to be a little bit of market rate there too. The development is going to be at the former Peninsula Hospital site. It's going to have a large supermarket that's going to get built in the first phase of the project. It's going to have a bunch of commercial space. It's going to have a community center. It's going to have space for a medical facility. And last but not least, the community was able to push the developers enough to negotiate for the developers to pour $2 million in funding into our community. And that's going to happen over the life of the project. The project should take about 10 years to build. So that $2 million is happening over those 10 years. And every time a new building is going to be built, a new installment of money will go out to the community organizations. And that those community organizations are going to be funded for programs and events. So nobody's just going to get money just to have money. It's really meant to service the people of the Rockaways. And that is 11 buildings. So it'll be 11 installments. $2 million. And it's an application. It's going to start with an application process that began on March 28th and will end on April 27th. We'll see if this gets extended because we're still doing outreach. We want to get as many applications as possible. The more applications, the better. We want to make sure that every organization that's out there or any group that's providing services or doing events has access to this funding. Now, in order to get the funding, in order to actually get the money in your bank account as an organization, you got to be a 501c3 organization. But we all know that there's a lot of groups in Rockaway, including PTAs and nonprofits that don't have a 501c3, but are still doing great work. Let's say even community gardens sometimes are doing great work, don't have a 501c3. So we are willing to buy them the materials that they need for their event or for their program so that they can participate in getting some of this funding. But we're unable to give any organization the actual money if you're not a 501c3 organization. However, we want everybody, if you're the dog park, their group should apply. The PTAs at all of our schools should apply. And we are pushing it and trying to advocate and trying to advertise this opportunity. Everybody should apply. The grants are, as I said, the grants are for events and programs. Now, how is this going to be decided? How is it going to be actually allocated? And when we were coming up with the idea for, or the structure for it, I knew there were two things I wanted. I wanted a non-biased, non-political approach to the allocations and deciding who gets it. And I wanted it to be transparent. I want everybody in the community to have access to what's going on and know how it's happening and why it's happening. So we developed the Edgemere Community Development Committee, which will be a part of Frank, but will be a committee made up of Frank's steering committee, which is, I had mentioned earlier, that's our board of people that, or representatives that govern Frank, and the leaders of all the civics in Edgemere and or around the development, and the leaders of the tenant associations that are around the development, and appointees from our elected leaders. And they will meet on a weekly basis to debate and review the applications until all of the money is allocated, or all of the applications, or all of the money is approved. And they'll be the ones to decide how much money each group will get. And that is up to $5,000. Each group can apply, or each program or event will get up to $5,000, nothing more, but it could be a lot less. 23 of the grants will be allocated now. And then 22 of the grants will be allocated towards the end of the year, in the fall/winter. And we're gonna have, the way it breaks down, about 14 grants will be up to $2,500, and then 9 grants, $5,000. And that's this time around. The next time later in the year will be 14 grants for $2,500 and 8 grants for $5,000. So there's a lot of opportunity here. a lot of opportunity for our small civics and different groups to be able to put on their events. And it's going to be a completely democratic process. And we are going to record every one of the meetings, as well as invite the community to come and watch the debates and the reviews of these committee meetings. And we're also going to have a small pot of money to the side that will allow for this committee to open up a smaller application throughout the year. So there will be an application that comes out on a rolling basis, and that'll be for any events. Like you come up with an idea, let's say in the middle of the summer, and you're like, man, we really should put on a block party for 108th Street. Or let's even go for closer to Edgemere on 59th Street. We need a block party. And you start organizing it, you organize it with civics, and you're like, we need a block party, but we don't have money. You'll have an opportunity to apply to this committee, which will meet a lot less frequently after it allocates these grants. But you'll still have an opportunity to apply and get some funding for this community, from this committee throughout the year. And that's that. You know, you can find the application on our website, and that is www.francnyc.org/community grants. Again, that's www.francnyc.org/community grants. And, check out our website and you can see some of the other stuff we're doing. And we got quite a few things we're doing. We're also going to be partnering with Jamaica Bay Rockaway Parks Conservancy and the Rockaway Hotel and Circuit to engage the community in a initiative that could possibly bring free electric shuttle vans to the transportation deserts of the Rockaways. And we can come on and talk about that too. But that more information about that coming very, very soon.
Sounds really good. And this fund, it looks like you said, you've got this money, and it what sounds really good about it is that you're trying to spread it around to as many groups as possible, so everybody can get a benefit, instead of just like shoveling it into one set of hands.
Yeah, and I think honestly, Frank is the perfect vehicle to make that happen, because we have such a diverse steering committee. There is not going to be any bias, and I'm going to make sure of that. I'm all about transparency. I'm all about empowering our community, empowering the people of our community, and ensuring that they're part of the process, and being as democratic as possible.
Now, you mentioned that certain groups, like maybe PTAs and others, are not 501c3 designated, but they can still take part in it. They can't get the money directly, but you'll pay for certain things for them if they're doing events. How far does that extend? What if you're just someone in the community who wants to put on an event? Do they have to partner then with an organization, or can individuals still get a piece of it?
So honestly, it's going to be up to the committee to decide, but I'd strongly suggest, if you are an individual, unless you've been doing it for years and you can show that, hey, I've been doing this event for years and now I'd like to get some funding, I strongly suggest you should partner with community organizations anyway. That'll ensure that you have a successful event. I do think that people that are partnered, that people that come with a civic or a group of people, will have a better shot, but it'll be up to the committee to vote on it and approve those kind of applications.
Okay, that sounds good, because I know a lot of people do little events here and there, maybe it's a cleanup or whatever it is. Sometimes they have people working with them, but they're not necessarily a group. But like you said, if they partner with groups, maybe then the group that they're partnering with can apply for the funding.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, each application, there's not going to be we have a lot going on in Rockaway, but we don't have too much going on in Rockaway. The committee will be able to look at each application, and our committee is made up of people that come from all over the peninsula. And if you're doing good work, if we don't know about it, we'll find out about it. And, we're all well connected to our neighbors. And if you're doing good work, you won't be misrepresented. And it's going to be a public meeting, so you can come on and find out why the committee chose to vote against it.
And
So
will
it's
they have the opportunity then also to appear at the meeting and make their case, or is it just something they're watching?
Now, right now, it's just something that they're watching. But I would like to, and we're going to have one more meeting before we start the deliberations. I'm really leaving the power within the committee's hands, but I will definitely bring that up. Like, maybe we should allow people to do a small presentation to talk about, because there are definitely going to be some questions.
That's what I was going to say. It also gives the committee an opportunity to ask them questions as they make their decision.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
So
That individual's plan or idea might be something that the committee really wants to get behind,
yeah. So yeah, that is what I'm going to pitch to the committee, and we'll know after our next meeting if presentations are allowed. But I say, why not? Why not? We got a little bit of time, and we should use it to make sure people are participating and engaged in this process as much as possible. So I strongly suggest everybody, every group apply. It's funding, and we're making it as easy,
right?
as easy as possible to get this funding. As long as you're legitimate and doing good work, why not? The more, the better. The more events we have in our community, the better.
Right.
The more cleanups we have in our community, the better. So.
Excellent, and thank you for the presentation. I know this might be a little bit outside your purview, but there was some pushback from the community and the community board about the project. Has that changed at all, and has the relationship improved with this new development?
You know what's interesting? Because I was around, I went to all the community board meetings during this time. What is interesting is, and this is the reason that we're even getting this funding, is because of the community pushing. With every development that comes into our community, they should be pouring into our community, because eventually our community is going to be supporting and pouring into them. But I think the debate really was density. And it was a lot of people that don't live in that area and don't really understand the need for commercial space and the need for housing in that area. You go from Beach 59th Street all the way down to Beach 32nd Street. There is no supermarkets. There is no laundromats. There's nothing there. It's a barren place. It is a desert, a commercial desert. If you wanted to start, everybody in Rockaway likes to say there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do because there's no space to do it anyway. There's no buildings built. There's no commercial space built. If we wanted a bowling alley, where are you going to put it? There's no building to put it. You'd have to build a building to have a bowling alley, and then you're going to have just a building sitting there that people are using. So a movie theater. Everybody on the eastern side is always talking about a movie theater. First of all, nobody goes to the movies anyway. And even if you wanted a movie theater, where are you going to put it? There's no space. There's no infrastructure for it. So I think the debate, and I'm not saying that density is not an issue. Density is an issue, I think, in every part of our city. And one of the reasons I love Rockaway is because this is not downtown Brooklyn. This is not Manhattan. And this is not other parts of Queens. I don't think this project is going to get in the way of that. I think as long as we can maintain some of our natural habitats, such as the beach and our natural resources like the bay and the parks that we have, that will still be different from the rest of the city, and we'll still have that space. And yeah, we'll be a little more dense than we were when I was growing up here, but we'll have a lot more opportunity here. And that's what we need.
It is
So-
something that we talked about, even when we talk about we need better transportation. You referenced Rockaway being a transportation desert. We fight for things like the Rockaway Beach Line, but we're always told that there's not enough infrastructure to support that. Not enough people would take it, and so it's a double-edged sword. You can complain about density, but you have to understand that you do need to build up a little bit in order to justify these infrastructure upgrades that we are asking for.
Yeah, density brings more income to our communities. We have no place on the eastern side to hang out. I mean, if we wanted, let's say I want to go out and get a drink tonight, I'd have to go to the western side of the peninsula. Western side of the peninsula.
Rockaway Hotel.
Rockaway Hotel is a beautiful place. But why should I have to go all the way over there to have a good time? Why can't I be here on the eastern side? And let's not forget about some of the hypocrisy. Where was all of the pushback on the development that just came to 116th Street, or all of the development that's put over there? We could build over there, but we can't build over here. You can have a nice place, there was nice apartments over there, but we can't have nice apartments over here.
To some of that, but I hear your point. Is the supermarket still going to be Western beef?
No, last I heard is not going to be a Western beef. So I know a lot of people will be happy to hear that. It's not going to be a Western.
We're not happy to hear that was a supermarket.
I wasn't happy to hear it either. I'll be honest. Like Western beef doesn't have a good brand. Whether they've upped their quality, it's not. Your brand has been tarnished so much that it doesn't matter what you say you're going to bring. I think it's going to be like every other Western beef I've been to, which was not very good. I would love to see something like a Trader Joe's, but these companies have to want to come to Rockaway. And until we bring more income and more structure and more infrastructure to our peninsula, these companies are not going to want to come to Rockaway. We got to be able to say, we can support you if you come here.
It just needs to be done in a way that makes sense, and you want to go against things like gentrification and so
right.
forth.
Yeah,
but I think that's the whole mixture. And I've seen this in every single development that's coming to our community. We're the only community that has real affordable housing coming to our community. Other parts of the city, affordable housing is affordable for everybody making $80,000 and above. And whether you're black, white, brown, rich or poor, you'll have a space in these developments that are coming, in these mixed affordable developments that are coming. But I hear it. I just want to, say I do understand. I love Rockaway for the lack of density. But I also understand that before Arverne by the Sea came, we had nothing in Arverne. Nothing. Now we have a Stop and Shop. Now we have a Bates's. Now we have a Super Burrito. And so while I love Rockaway being the low density haven that it is, I also love Super Burrito. I also love being able to grab a drink down the block. I also love Tiki Bar. So we have to balance it. And yes, I think people need to keep pressure on electeds, keep pressure on developers, make sure that they're pouring into our community, but also be willing to, okay, if we can push them, there comes a point where we're like, all right, you're coming. We're not too happy about it, but we're going to make the best of this.
Yeah, I think
about, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask about people were obviously talking about parking, but also I think maybe even more importantly, school space, classroom space. Was that addressed at all?
So I know during the process, the developers were willing to take some space and make it, give it to the city, give some land to the city to build a school, but the city would have to build it. The city turned them down on that. And there were a lot of back and forth. The developers were pushing for something to happen in the education department. But the deal that they all came up with, and it could have changed since I've last been updated on this part of the deal, was that after the first 2 or 3 phases, which is the first 2 or 3 buildings, they're going to take another look and see how the density has impacted the school seats. And if it looks like the school seats are getting what is the word?
Overcrowded?
Overcrowded, then the city would then be responsible with the developers to come up with a solution. What a lot of people don't know is where the testing site was on like, I believe it's 39th Street. There was a COVID testing site the city built overnight without talking to anybody. And then they tore it down overnight without talking to anybody. But that is actually DOE space. So if the city wanted, they already have space right there in the 30s in Edgemere, where they could build a school if they wanted to. The city just has to have the willingness, and it could happen. It could happen. But I think with every development that comes, and they're doing these environmental impact statements, and they're coming back, the environmental impact statements are coming back saying that we're still going to have some space in our schools. So a lot of other parts of Queens have overcrowding, or a lot of other parts. But right now, most of our schools are not overcrowded. So I think they're using that as a defense not to build more schools. But eventually they're going to have to, and we got to keep that pressure on everybody.
And that's the key. And I think it's critical that the developers are working with the community. I mean, right, all these issues that we talk about really go back to, we don't want someone to come in who's not from the area and just dictate what happens and just dump on us. And so the fact that they're working with the community and the community is holding their feet to the fire is very important. And the work that you're doing along those lines is also very important. So I commend you for it. And I commend the developers for working with the community, and also for allocating this money and making sure that the community really benefits from the development. That's really what we ask for at the end of the day, right? We want to make sure that whatever is done, we all can share in that, and it benefits us.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's interesting? So honestly, this is the only development that is doing anything like this. These are the only developers doing anything like this in Rockaway. We got a number of large developments coming. Now, each one of them have their own uniqueness to them, but this is the only one that's giving $2 million to our community based organizations to provide programs and events in our community. And the other thing about this is the original developers sold most of the site. The original developers that made this deal, they only are building one building out of the 11 buildings. And the new developers, which are a big development company, they've agreed to honor all of the commitments and promises that the original developers made. So I think we've got lucky, and I think we just got to keep the pressure up. I'm not saying that we should trust anybody, but so far, both of these developers they've been about building with the community. And one thing I've always thought, as somebody who works in the community and has lived in Rockaway my entire life, I was born in Rockaway. Why not? Why would you want to build a development and not consult with the people that live there already? You're causing yourself a headache, and in the end, your building is not going to be successful. But if you work with the people around you, let them have a say in how it looks, or what it looks like. If you work with the people around you, you pour into the people around you, your development not only will be welcomed, but it'll be celebrated.
I think that you brought up the point, as far as working with the community and making sure that it benefits the community. And with developments like this, or just any development and building up in places where like you said, there is some really affordable housing out there. The part of the danger is that once the stuff gets built up and these businesses do come, that the people in the community get priced out, right? And I think in Rockaway, and I think I've mentioned it to Mike before, with the Rockaways, you have beach access, which can be very valuable for people who have a lot more money once there's some infrastructure there. If they can come in and move to a place and have some beachfront access, or a beach community and still have close access to the city as well, people could quickly get priced out. People who are from there, who grew up there like yourself, could quickly get displaced because it's a very attractive area at that point. And so I think that's something that needs to be paid attention to. And like I said, keep the community, keeping their people's feet to the fire, electeds, and trying to make sure that from this building up and these extra things that come there, that it's the community that is there that get to benefit from it, and not people who want to come in and take it because now it's the new shiny thing.
So yeah, like I was saying before, over the next 5 years, Rockaway is going to develop. Rockaway is going to be beautiful. And yeah, every single one of these developments that is coming is mixed income. And I personally think that is so important, that not only do we look out for those that are struggling, but we also welcome a little bit more income into our community. And we make sure that there is a even balance, that we don't become the next Harlem, that we don't become the next Williamsburg. Yeah. but we need a little bit of it. We want the nice things, but we want to be able to stay too. I'll tell you, there is one development out here that came years ago that is built that a lot of us can't live in, that is almost completely market rate. Now, while I think it's good to have, though it is good, it brought in more income, that development did not take into consideration all of the communities in Rockaway, so I see the developers that are coming today a lot more open to developing in a way that
Collaboration.
that kind of takes everybody into consideration. Our peninsula is diverse, our peninsula is segregated, and our peninsula is not necessarily one peninsula yet. But the more that the new developments take into consideration everybody and offer a space for everybody, the more synergy you'll see between our communities.
Right. Agreed. And well said. We do have a few minutes left here. I know we mentioned a couple other topics. We had a poll last week, so why don't we get to that before we wrap up? Manny, I think, did a great presentation, and obviously this is all very important stuff. And I think a lot of locals are paying attention to this because this affects their day-to-day life more than anything else. So we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I hope I didn't take up too much time.
No, it's all
No,
good.
no, it's good.
Yeah. But Jay, you ran the poll last week. I did as well. What were your results? And to recap, what was the poll?
Oh, wow. Actually, the results on my poll was, I'll have to pull that up.
I'll tell you, this was the first time that a lot of people did not participate in mine. Usually everyone on my stories is hitting yes, no, they're getting involved in it. People seem to hesitate this time. I'm not sure if that was because they didn't know the subject that we were talking about, or because they just didn't want to answer it. But for those who may not know, we asked about the senators, and in particular, they were Republican senators who walked out when Justice Jackson was confirmed. And we asked people if they agreed with that decision or not. People didn't seem to want to get involved in this one.
I had for the results that I had, it wasn't the same type of response that we got from the poll previously, where like everyone seemed to want to chime in. But I think there was only one person on the polls that I had that said that it was okay for them to walk out. There were two, but I think one was from another country, and I don't know if they understood what the question was because I don't speak English.
Gotcha.
And so I think they just clicked the positive, the yes thing. So I think there's only one person that was like, yeah, that it was okay for them to walk out. And maybe, like I said, maybe they didn't.
Why someone would say that? I don't know. I don't know what their rationale. I wish people would actually comment as to why. But again, people
right
on this one.
How do you guys feel about that?
I think it was distasteful. It was, there was lacking in decorum. It was classless. These are supposed to be, these are our politicians. They're supposed to be, at a higher standard. You have a responsibility. You have, the trust of the people. You're supposed to conduct yourself at a higher standard. And so when you do that type of thing, it just, it's juvenile, it's childish. And it's not for anything that she did or represented that was detestable. It'd be different if it was, maybe there'd be a discussion if she was some kind of,
I mean, I did see some people criticizing the way she answered some of the questions. She wouldn't say what a woman is and stuff like that, but nothing that would rise to the level of walking out. I mean, that's just straight disrespectful. And
right,
what are you doing? I mean, that just leads to the cynicism that everyone has with all of our politicians, and it doesn't do anything to improve people's faith in democracy. Certainly, I mean, it's not contributing to the solution. It's just making the problem worse.
Right, and I think even like if it was like let's say Trump, who has done very distasteful things, I think maybe you have a discussion there for them to do that in protest. But there was nothing here. It was just, I mean, she's highly qualified. She's done her service. She was even, worked in the Supreme Court at some point. Like it was just, poor.
I mean, what does this mean? Does this mean that any action taken by President Biden or Democrats in Congress and the Senate are going to be protested this way, and people are just going to walk out on them now? I mean, this is how we're operating our institution.
I see both of you guys kind of like beating around a certain word. What party were these senators from?
Well, we mentioned it. We mentioned Republican. I thought you were a different word. That starts with C.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was going to ask.
Racism. I'll say racism. I have no problem saying it. And yes, they were Republican, and actually in the poll we mentioned it was Republican senators that walked out. Now, of course, it wasn't everybody. We have to be, fair in there. There were several. Wasn't everybody. I think Mitt Romney was reported as having stayed. Ted Cruz, I think, was one that stepped out, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Romney, Collins, and Murkowski voted in favor of her, so walk out. Of course.
Do you think that's a good representation of the Republican Party? There was a time, I just want to say this real quick, because there was a time where I like the Republican ideals, I don't think are terrible, but the party, the representation of what it's become is like, it's something that I couldn't
talk about that on this particular live stream, that they don't really run on issues anymore. That's the problem. It's the culture war. We're going to fear tactics. Democrats want to do this. They're not talking about what they want to do. They're not really talking about policy. I don't think they really have policy. I mean, you could talk to the points that maybe still exist at a high level, lower everyone's taxes and stuff like that, but that's not really what they're running on. They're running on cultural issues.
Right. And like you said, it's some of the policies, the ideas behind them are not bad. There's, I think you can get a lot of people to agree with smaller, more responsible government. You can get, people to agree with, budgetary restrictions and things like this. It's how it's implemented and how you talk about it is going to be part of the issue. And I think you said is like Romney and them like a representation of the Republican Party, or the people that walked out, are they representation? I think we got people like Romney who are more representative of the let's say the previous Republican Party, the pre-Tea Party Republican Party. And now you've got people that are in there that are like the Tea Party and the Trump Republicans. And so, remember back when the Tea Party popped up, there was all that talk about this division in the Republican Party, this fracture of these different factions. And you had people like, Romney and what was the guy that retired, the young looking dude?
Paul Ryan.
Speaker?
Paul Ryan, right. These guys, we didn't exactly like them, but they were more of that older type of Republican Party that actually tried to talk about some of the issues instead of the people that are there now that are doing just the emotional, divisive type of stuff.
That's the problem. How could you associate yourself with that party, even if you hold some of those positions ideologically. How could you be in that club? How could you say these are my people when they're behaving that way? That's a real issue.
Exactly. That's, I think, the issue with the party today. But what's crazy to me is that they still have a lot of supporters. Like, hey, why is that? I'm trying to understand that. And I feel like, what'd you say, Jay?
I said, because they're okay with it. You know, people don't want to talk about that, but here's the thing. If they are doing these detestable things, representing these detestable things, and you're still associating yourself with it, that means, even though you say you disagree with it, it means that you're still okay enough with it to roll with it.
Not a deal breaker for you. You're willing to.
Complicit.
Right.
You're complicit. So
that's an issue. Hopefully, more people will respond to this poll. I think there's a segue here because we talked about the policy. Part of the policy that I think you're referring to with kind of like this old school Republican mentality, individual liberties, no government intervention, small government, things of that nature. Well, we wanted to ask about the mask mandate being lifted. Now, of course, you're going to balance individual liberties with public health and safety, and I think those are very compelling interests on the other side as well. So we wanted to put this question out there because there was a court case, a federal judge in Florida who was a Trump appointee, struck down the CDC restriction and CDC mandate that you had to wear masks in public transit, on airplanes, and so forth. So the question was, well, I guess the question we want to pose this week is, do you agree that the mask mandate should be lifted in public transportation?
Right. What do you think? What's your
well, first of all,
you got to look there, Manny. Manny had
I just want to say, from a legal perspective, it seemed like this case was almost decided with cop-out reasoning. I don't want to comment too deeply because I admittedly have not read the entire opinion, and so I am a lawyer. I want to be careful with what I say on that. But from what I read, it was mostly a procedural issue, and it had to do with the way the law was passed. And then we also kind of looked at the language that was being played with cleaning something versus keeping it clean, which can be the subject of late night monologues, I'm sure. But the question is, putting the law aside, I guess, right? From a policy perspective, should we continue to mandate masks in public accommodations like this, or even in ride shares, in Ubers or taxis? Should we, if we have the legal authority? Let's assume that we do have the legal authority to do so. Is it a good idea to continue to do so? I think that's a good place to start the discussion.
Hey, can I jump in?
Yes.
And I think something was up on my internet, but man, I'm torn. Look, I am all about moving things forward. I'm all about us as a group, as a society, looking out for one another. However, nobody was mandating a mask for pneumonia. Nobody, there were a lot of the flu, people walk around with the flu all the time. I am going to continue wearing a mask for myself. I'm going to continue making sure my daughter wears a mask. But as far as a mandate to wear a mask on public transportation, I was okay with it. But I can understand why people would be not okay with it. Public transportation is for everyone. And some people are uncomfortable in masks. And nobody required a mask before. Nobody said you had to wear a mask until recently when COVID became a thing. I'm not saying it's not a great thing for everybody to wear masks. That would be wonderful if everybody wore a mask. But one thing that separates America from the rest of the world is freedom. Mm. And this might come back to bite me in the butt later. But I think that.
No, I hear you.
I think honestly, that, I can respect it if you don't want to wear a mask, but I'm going to continue to wear a mask, and I'm going to continue to keep myself and everybody around me safe.
And honestly, there's no reason why freedom should be a right-wing principle anyway. I mean, we talked about even like the Patriot Act, which was under the Bush administration, and it was really considered a liberal principle to oppose that and to fight for people's freedom. So I think it always depends on the context and who's in charge and so forth. Things get very complicated. There's nothing wrong with saying that as an American, we value our freedom and individual liberties, and that shouldn't really be a partisan issue, right? James in the chat is asking, how does the judge in Florida make laws for the rest of the country? Isn't that up to the Supreme Court? And that's a good point as well. This was a federal regulation that was struck down by this one particular judge. So far, the Biden administration has signaled they will follow this, but this doesn't mean that what this judge said applies to the entire country, especially when you start looking at state and local governments. In New York City, for example, you still do have to wear your mask on the subway and on buses and in taxis and
Uber.
Yes. And so, James, that is a good point. Just because one judge in Florida says so doesn't mean that everyone in the country has to follow this. Nonetheless, you are going to see people citing this opinion now who don't want to wear a mask and say they don't have to.
Right, and that's going to cause some issue, especially with taxi drivers and Uber drivers. And then it's confusing for a lot of people. For example, the transportation limousine TLC service organization has stated that it's still required in New York City, and Uber is under this. The Uber drivers have to get a license through them. So Uber drivers in New York City will still have to require that people are wearing masks. Now in Long Island, Uber drivers don't have to. And so, it's going to be confusing with people. And I'm sure they're going to get a lot of grief, some of these drivers, because people are going to show up and like you said, they're going to be like, oh, well, the news said, and the judge said this and that. And like, look, man, they're going to be putting it on people who are just trying to drive and earn a living at this point.
Right.
So, and I've said it multiple times especially from coming out here, from being out here, like it's such an ignorant non-issue, this thing about the masks, because it's not a problem anywhere out here or in East Asia or anywhere, because it's been a commonplace thing. And it's not a freedom thing. It's just,
but it's become I do think that it is a freedom thing, even if they're doing it in Japan. I feel like if you're making a mandate to wear a mask and you never made it a mandate before, and we've had things that are just as contagious, like it's not.
No, we haven't.
Contagious stuff is not a new concept. I'm just not a fan of mandates like that. However, I'm okay with either or. I'm going to wear a mask. I'm going to wear a mask whether it's required or not. But I think that is what separates America. I also think, unfortunately, this has become a political issue. People that don't wear a mask, I'm sure they might wear a mask if it wasn't like a political thing. I think some of them would. I think it's become a statement now.
Yes, there are people who would wear a mask, but they think that might make them look like a progressive and they don't want to wear the mask.
Yeah.
And that's just childish. And on the point of mandates and freedom, I'll say, Japan doesn't have a mask mandate. Japan never mandated any lockdowns or any of that. First, partially they couldn't, but because it's not an issue. So it's not like America has this chokehold on freedom and we allow people to choose. They didn't make a mandate out here for people to wear masks. So
we're not.
I think I'm sorry.
Why? You see, Japan didn't. Why
they didn't know
doing that? And not
because people in the United States weren't listening. They weren't helping. They were being ignorant and bullheaded.
But Jay,
like we're not going to wear the mask,
Jay,
and so it pushes.
Jay, you were against the individual mandate to buy health insurance in the Affordable Care Act. Isn't that the situation?
Yeah, I was against that. I'm also against the vaccine mandate.
Okay. Right? So why is the mask mandate different to you?
Exactly. There's a very big difference there. The mask mandate is a very non-invasive, non-side effect type of way of taking the most basic step. Now, vaccine also helps to protect yourself and others. And I'm not debating that it works. And it also lessens the effects of COVID. I'm not debating that works. But there's also a side effect chance for people to take that because you're putting these chemicals into your body. And you don't know the 5-year study because we haven't had a 5-year study. You don't know future, whatever the effects are going to be. So I think that is much more of a risk for people than simply putting a cloth on your face, just like you put a shirt on your back. It's more invasive. That's where my difference is.
Okay.
So now mandates, the thing is with masks, and I think a lot of people get it twisted as far as how they're supposed to actually work, because there was a lot of confusion in the beginning, especially when people started rolling out, talking about masks, first the Fauci and the CDC saying, no, they don't even work. And then they changed their mind and talk about, okay, now they now you should do them. First, don't buy them because now we're going to run out of this. There was a lot of confusion and I think one of the real simple things is called it's going around to say the urine test, right? And the idea of the urine test is that if we're walking around and you're urinating and I'm urinating, then your urine's going to get on me. If I'm wearing pants and you're not and you're urinating, your urine's going to get on me, but it's going to be a little bit less. If you're urinating and wearing pants and I'm wearing pants, then we're both going to not get other people's urine on us. And that's how the mask works. Me wearing the mask is more about whatever's coming out of my mouth, the pathogen coming out of my mouth, getting to someone else. And so if I'm wearing it and you're not, and you're sick, then I've got less protection from it. And it's such a simple procedure to do. And like I said, from out here, people are looking at people in the States like they're children, because
there's a lot of COVID fatigue out there. I think people are aware of all these things. Of course, there's cynicism as well. But for the most part, people understand that there's a risk of at least getting sick. I think some people are just saying at this point, we're willing to take that risk. My perspective is a little bit different because I was doing a lot of remote work. I was staying indoors for a while. The first time I went out and left my house, I caught COVID. And so it made me a little bit more paranoid and cautious maybe than some other people are. I don't want to get it. Yes, I was vaccinated. I didn't get very sick, but I still don't want to get it and risk spreading it to other people who may not handle it as well as I did.
Now,
right.
Y'all remember when the NYPD was tasked with enforcing the COVID mandates and things just got out of hand and no one could understand why? What if instead of these mandates existing or mask mandates, let's talk about that one.
Right.
Why didn't the government just pour into convincing people to wear masks? Pour into their resources instead of, like, all right, we look at in Japan, people wear masks because people wear masks. It's a cultural thing. Why didn't the government, or even now, pour into changing the culture around it? It has become a political statement to not wear a mask. Let's change.
I agree.
You're saying use
I agree. I think. No, go ahead.
Instead of a mandate, pour into changing the whatever it is that got certain people hating masks. And then we can maintain people's freedoms, but also stigmatize not wearing a mask.
I think that train might have left the station though. I don't know if you're going to convince people it's a good idea because it's been so politicized. It's where we are now. It's like everything is. And even if the government were to come out and say this is a good idea, you'd have people opposing it just because they said it was a good idea. Forget the mandate. They would say, and it's crazy because Fauci could be working for Trump or Biden. It seems like that doesn't seem to matter. It's like if it's a Democrat in charge, the Republicans are not going to want to do it, and vice versa to a certain extent. And that's just where we are politically in the country right now. And that speaks to a much larger issue.
And I agree with Manny, like and I think that was, like you said, the train left the station. Should have been in the beginning. And there were a lot of mixed messages in the beginning from when it came. Because listen, part of the reason why people started wearing masks in the States was because of Asia, because they were seeing what was happening and people masking up. And then the Asians in the States were wearing masks because it was part of where they come from. And so people started seeing that and were like, oh, well, maybe we need to buy masks. And then there was that run on masks and such. I think in that moment, there was like, Fauci clearly was like, oh, they don't work. We don't need to do this.
That was a big problem as well,
that
right?
Was a big problem.
People lost trust immediately because first they said it didn't work. Then they said to do it. Then they started saying, well, wear this type of mask, but not that type of mask. Don't wear the wear them. They kept changing the science. And so people started saying it's not reliable.
Right. And then I think also, though, I mean, we're America. We're going to be bullheaded and stubborn. And when it started to become a common thing for people to wear masks, there were those people pushing back. And so the more people were being defiant about the suggestion to wear masks, the recommendation to wear masks, it was going to make the government move to something like a mandate. Because now they're also under pressure to do something. They're in a very serious.
So do you think Japan might have mandated masks if people were not wearing them voluntarily?
I don't think Japan has the power to do that. 'Cause that was one of the reasons why Japan didn't do any of the lockdowns, the forced lockdowns, because the government doesn't have the power to do it. And so it was recommendations that they did, and a lot of businesses followed suit on the recommendation.
James said they said in the beginning so they can get masks to doctors and hospitals, not to
Right.
That is true, but let's be honest, they also were saying initially that they would not be effective, at least the cloth masks.
Right.
They were saying, well, right, the regular masks would not be effective. Then they said that they were. Now they're saying that the cloth won't be effective, but the standard ones are. So they do keep going back and forth a little bit on that.
Let me also say, this is one thing that really stuck out to me recently. All of the politicians that were pushing for lockdowns and pushing for mandates and vaccine mandates, they've all kind of switched their positions. And it's not like COVID went away. I think last year in 2021, more people died from COVID than in 2020.
Right.
COVID didn't go anywhere, but everybody changed their position because politically now we're trying to reopen the city.
Right.
So you know, I really feel like a lot of it is based on politics, and the whole issue has been politicized. I think we need to encourage people to do what's right for our communities because it's right for our communities, not because a politician wants to mandate you. They're going to mandate you if it's going to do well for them in the polls.
Right. And that goes to public opinion, right? So again, it goes back to the community holding the powers that be responsible, holding their feet to the fire. I guess that's but we did run over time. I know we mentioned one topic that we didn't get to yet, so I guess we'll talk about that briefly. I think it speaks to the Byzantine election laws that we have, trying to make the ballot. Manny, you're familiar with it, of course. I am as well. I work in the field. Rebecca Seawright, an assemblywoman from Manhattan, 2 years ago, she did not make the ballot in the Democratic primary. She was a Democratic assemblywoman. She didn't make the ballot because she did not file her petitions correctly. She ended up winning re-election as an independent, which is not an easy thing to do, but to her credit, she did. 2 years later now, she files her petition again for re-election and again has an error in her petition. This time it wasn't a fatal flaw. She was able to correct it, but it just goes to show you, man, like an assemblywoman who's a veteran, no stranger to politics. She's an incumbent. She's in the system, and two election cycles in a row now, even after it happened last time, you think she'd be on her feet, on her game. It happened again.
Are we going to blame now? Yeah, the election law is ridiculous. New York is ridiculous. And you know better than anyone how ridiculous election law is and how unfair it is. But come on, twice?
Yeah.
She's a sitting assembly member. Come on, and it's not her. Obviously, she's not the election lawyer. She hired, I would hope,
better people. I think
she used the same people? Like what?
Well, I'll say this. I actually received a call 2 years ago. I was recommended by another assembly member to be her campaign manager for that independent run that she had. They ended up not using me, and I haven't really been in touch with her team since. Maybe they should be giving me a call because I would make sure that she filed her paperwork correctly.
Does that speak to the difficulty of the process, or
that is part of it? Manny is right, though. I mean, the burden I think is on her. I wouldn't even blame her team as much as I would blame her because she needs to have the right people around her. So yes, I think she does deserve certain criticism for that. And there was an article in the Post, they were happy to spank her for it, fine. But I'm saying the larger issue here is, yes, the election law is crazy. It's archaic and it's very difficult to navigate, even for people who have experience in politics.
I agree, but who else is what other sitting assembly member isn't making the ballot?
That's a good point.
Like twice?
Yeah,
come on.
A good point. If it was like 10 other assembly members all having the same issue, then it's like, okay, the system is really,
well,
the system could be a problem, but maybe it's also, like you said, her team around her just not dotting their I's and crossing their T's properly.
To be fair, a lot of candidates do receive these non-compliance notices from the board. They're not always fatal flaws. They're able to come in and correct them. I think that it was highlighted in her case because of the fact that she was famously booted from the ballot 2 years ago. So now any little misstep that she has is going to make the news, but it does happen. It's not only her who has these issues.
Oh yeah.
You have an assemblywoman in the last cycle who was kicked off the ballot for fraud. Now that's a whole nother story, right? That wasn't just an honest mistake, evidently. It was something much more sinister. But I think it has something to do with allowing someone else to sign her petition. Maybe it was her husband or someone else sign her name or something like that. That doesn't seem like a crazy thing, but it was enough to get it off the ballot.
I got a question, Mike. What would be the best type of process for getting on the ballot? How do you create a system that only lets serious candidates on the ballot, and also is completely fair for, gives everybody an even chance?
Well, I think you need to, number one, have more leeway. So more substantial compliance allowed. You don't knock people off the ballot for every little technical issue that can arise, because right now you really have to walk on eggshells. You know, something very simple like filing an amended cover sheet but not saying that, or not, for example, not attaching your original cover sheet to your amended one, something like that, which is like something that anyone can overlook, cannot get you knocked off the ballot. That might be going a little too far. There are some people who want to reform the system entirely and say, you shouldn't even have to petition. In some states, you can just pay a fee to get on the ballot. If you want to make it accessible to everyone, maybe even not mandate the fee. What they want to do in some cases is tie campaign finance to the ballot and say that if you raise enough money, so for example, if you're running for a city council or any municipal seat and you have to get a certain number of donors in your district or in the city or in your borough or for whatever you're running for to qualify for matching funds, they would say, okay, if you reach that threshold, you've demonstrated you have enough community support. At that point, you should be allowed to be on the ballot as well. That's a proposal that's out there too.
I kind of like that one. I think community support is really important, and I think this ballot stuff is very archaic. I agree with you, but this lady.
I think what we can conclude on that point, on the whole discussion we just had on that point, is that she should probably give Scala a call.
Yes, I was going to say, in the meantime, while we still have these laws, I am making money and I have a good business, right? Helping people navigate it, even though it's even crazy for me. It's, it is what it is. And I'm happy to help.
You made the ballot every time you've tried, right?
Yes. And
every single time.
Even the very first time when it was New Jackson in the area.
That's right.
People, yeah.
Shout out to Paul Rosenberg who helped us out with that one. But Manny made the ballot as well. So you have the right people.
Thanks to a great team. It wasn't me. It was the people like that were supporting me. Andre Bystrov, let's give him a shout out. His team that is one thing I will always respect about them, is they go hard when it comes to getting people on the ballot. And, even if you're going up against some pretty big folks, you can make the ballot.
And who filed your petition at the Board of Elections?
Yeah.
So, no, seriously, it is a crazy process, and you need to dot your, I was gonna say that backwards. Dot your I's and cross your T's. If you do it the other way,
cross your I's.
So thank you, Manny, for joining us. Thank you
for having me. This was fun. I haven't done anything like this in like a year. So oh man, I love it. I love talking politics, and I love saying things that I might have to look back at later.
Well, we'd love to have you back on, and I look forward to connecting with you off the stream as well. So appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. Have an incredible night.
Yes.
And keep doing what you're doing. I love it. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.